if you enjoyed that and you're wondering what in the heck is going on there and how do you create that bebop sound, don't worry, I'm going to explain all of that in today's podcast lesson. Now, I'm going to be teaching you how to integrate bebop approaches just like what you heard into the foundational levels that I just taught you in the last video that I posted. So if you're here to add on to that, or you just want to learn more about what I was just playing and how to use it in your own playing, stick around because I'm going to teach you how to do that today.
All right, now we are continuing where we left off from levels 1 and 2 of being a proficient improviser. And all of this is leading up to the brand new release of a new course on Black Friday called the Proficient Jazz Piano Improviser. And you can get more information about that by going to jazzpianoschool.com/Black Friday 2025. But in today's episode, we're going to be moving on to level 3, and that's going to be the integration of bebop approach notes, how to use them, how to work on them, and again, how to create that amazing bebop sound in your improvisation that we all desire. With that being said, let's dive right in.
All right, whether you're coming from the last video or you're just watching this video right now, the first 2 levels of my Proficient Jazz Piano Improvisation Goal 3 system are going to be as follows. Level 1, chord tones. I'm going to demonstrate that right now. So what I'm going to do is just improvise with the 4 chord tones from every chord. And here's what that sounds like. This is going to be level 1. So I'm just using all 4 notes from every chord. So on and so forth, right? So that's going to be level 1. Now, if you didn't watch the last video, you're definitely going to want to go watch that because levels 1 and 2 really set us up to integrate bebop approach notes into our improvisation. And we have to know levels 1 and 2. So that was level 1. Level 2 is now, instead of just all skips, right? If you noticed, everything I was playing sounded like skips. And that can be a little jarring, a little segmented. We need some fluid motion, and we do that through steps. Now, how do we create steps? We create steps through using scales. So if you'll notice in my chord here, there's only 3 notes I'm missing that will connect my 4 chord tones to create a mode or a scale, right? And I know a lot of students have a really adverse reaction to learning modes or scales because they don't know how to use them, why to use them. Jazz teachers just tell them they got to do it. But with this understanding that I'm trying to teach you here, hopefully you have a better understanding that we can't always just skip around on the piano. We need some fluid motion to connect our 4 notes in the chord, our chord tones that actually make up the chord. So here's what that sounds like. It's going to be a lot smoother, a lot cleaner, very fluid, very, very nice to listen to, like really easy on the ear, okay? I'm going to bump this up just a smidge here. Let's go to 108. Here we go. So clearly I'm moving up and down with scalar motion now, right? So again, none of this really sounds like jazz yet, but you have to understand these principles in order to get to the step that we're at today, which is applying bebop approach notes. Now there's one really, really important concept that I didn't mention, and that is when you're using your skips or your steps in your first 2 levels of your improvisation, it's very, very key and important. Probably way more important than even using the tools. On the chords, you need to land on chord tones because this is going to reflect the sound of the chord. So when I go to improvise using skips or steps, every single measure, I'm going to hit a chord tone on the downbeat of 1. Okay, here we go. Check it out. So I'll start with a root. Root. Third. 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 Fifth. Fifth, third. So as I move through my improv, hitting those chord tones on the downbeats is so critical to creating really professional sounding improvisation. And it becomes even more critical to this next step that I'm about to show you, which is bebop approach notes. So let's go back a little bit to demonstrate and teach you how to use the bebop approach notes. I'm going to go to a 2-5-1 here. I'm going to change my exercise up in my playlist. Now, everything that I'm showing you here is going to be released on Black Friday. This is goal number 3. Goal number 3 of my jazz piano, Proficient Jazz Pianist course, right? And it's all on improvisation. So as I pull up this 2-5-1, what I'm teaching you here will get you proficient in improvisation. And actually, when I went to the new school, I had to actually test out a proficiency to be able to pick my teacher and pick my classes, and they gave me a list of fundamentals. Most of the time, students have no idea what to do to get to that proficient level, and that's exactly what my course does. So on this 2-5-1, we're going to be doing the exact same thing here, right? So I'm going to be utilizing my chord tones and my scalar motion, but that's going to be in the middle of the measure. How I want to do this is I want to start my line off with a bebop approach. That sounds like a pretty nice bebop line, does it not? Now, the reason for that is because I've now integrated bebop approach notes into levels 1 and 2 of my Proficient Jazz Piano improvisation system, right? That's really all I've done. I've taken levels 1 and 2 and I've included bebop approaches. Now, check this out. Let's check this line out. Let's go really slowly. And so I really want you to understand it. Oops, I'm sorry. I didn't have the 2-5-1 screen up there. There you go. So what I'm doing here is I'm encapsulating, right? Or I'm approaching, okay, my chord tone. So I'm hitting a chord tone. Now, this is going to be what I call a delayed resolution. I'm giving you more of an advanced technique here, actually. But you could start this on the downbeat of 4. So I could go 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. We'll get to that in a second. But here I'm going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So I land on the root here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So the only delayed resolution I have here is this D, which falls on the downbeat of 2, the G falls on the downbeat of 1, and the E falls on the downbeat of 1. So I'm sticking to my rule for the most part. And like I said, delayed resolutions are the more advanced improvisational stuff. But as you can see here, these bebop approaches approach our chord tones. Now the purpose of them is to create tension and release, to move outside of the key. Up until this point, if I did that utilizing level 1 and 2, right, I did some skips. What did I play? Or no. Right, so I did some steps, I did some skips. Skips. Right, so I did skips and steps, and I was still landing on chord tones, which, like I continue to say, is levels 1 and 2 of the proficiency to become proficient at improvisation. So now all I'm doing is I'm adding up, I'm leveling up, and I'm adding my bebop approaches in. So now we get more tension and release, which creates the sound of bebop. So here, this note is outside the key of C, right? Our key of C is just the C major scale. So we're going outside the key and coming back in. Now, obviously, these two notes are outside the key, right? And then this note here is outside the key. So these bebop approaches are bringing us outside and inside. So how do we do this at home? How do we do this at home? The easiest first step is to learn your bebop approaches. There's many types of bebop approaches, and they serve like Lego building blocks to create different patterns that you can weave and snake around chord tones. So I could do this into my D. I can do this into my D. I can do this into my D. I can do that into my D. I can do that, half step below, right? They all have names, half step below, chord scale above to half step below to the chord, right? Chord scale above, chord scale below, half step below into my root, right? half step above, half step below into my chord tone rather, root. So there's many types of bebop approaches. The simplest way is just to start with the easiest one, which is half step below. Right? So when I start my line, you're already getting a little bit of tension. Now check out what I'm doing here. If I'm starting with my line, and then when I resolve to my chord tone here, half step below. So the only bebop approach I'm now using is a half step below approach. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. I'm hitting all my chord tones. I'm moving up and down with my scalar motion. I didn't actually do any steps or skips in that particular demo, but it still sounds great. Right? Really easy way to start incorporating your bebop approaches. Now, what do you need to learn? All of your bebop approaches, right? You need to learn your chord tones, and all of this is in my course, but just to give you a really simple way of doing this, just start with your half step below approach. Now, what do you do in the middle of the measure? That's what students tend to ask me a lot. What do you do in the middle of the measure? In the middle of the measure, it doesn't really matter. Your goal here is to utilize a bebop approach to get you into a chord tone of the next chord. That's it. So in the middle of the measure, you could really do anything you want, but you want to try to use levels 1 and 2, skips and steps. So maybe I do some skips. Now, if I do a skip pattern, I want to try to move into more steps to balance it out. Right? So, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Now I'm going to use another bebop approach to get me into a chord tone. So I'll go and 1, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. So I use the half step below here again. I actually use chord scale below, half step below into that. So I'm carefully practicing the construction of my bebop lines, working on the integration of a single bebop approach. And here's all you got to do is just take a 2-5-1 like this, repeat it on iRo Pro. I'm going to do this for you now. And every phrase, every like 2 measures, every 3 measures, just try to use the half step below approach. That's it to start your line. Okay, and then leave some space. So you can play a line for a measure or 2 measures. And I'll demo it, and I'm going to leave some space for you to try it out as well. So I'm going to start my line on any of the 4 chord tones, and I'm going to try to use a half step below into the D minor. That's going to be my only goal. For the rest of the 2-5-1, you can play whatever you want, but your only goal here is to utilize that half step below approach. So here's what it's going to sound like. Here's at 86 BPM. I'll go through once, and then you can go through, okay? And we'll just keep trading for a couple times. Here we go. So I'm going to use half step below into the 3rd. Okay, now you try half step below into any chord tone, and then for the rest of this, you can do whatever you want, right? May not sound great, not up to your standard, that's okay. We're just focused on this first measure. So I'm gonna do half step below into the 7th. We're trying to focus on hitting chord tones on the downbeat of the chord. Your turn. Okay. Great. Super simple exercise. You can elevate this and continue to make it harder, right? You can add more bebop approaches in. You can approach different chord tones of different chords. We'll do another one in a second. That last approach that I use, very common bebop line. And all I did was a half step below into the 7th, and then I did a skip pattern down. And then I went into scalar motion. We need to know that scalar motion so that we can balance out our skips. That's why it's so important to move up and down the scale to create that fluidity and that smoothness. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to play a line on the D minor. And then I'm going to try to connect my line either by taking some space or just flowing right into it and utilize another half step below approach to connect me into my G7 chord. So I might go... Right, so I use the half step below approach. I keep using that one. Let me try a different one. I went into the 5 of the G7. Let me see if I can get into the 3rd. Right, so I used the half step below approach to get me into the 3rd. Now I'm continuously flowing into the next chord and hitting the chord tone, meaning I'm taking no rests, right? I'm going and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Now the reason this sounds so good is because it's literally fluid motion of skips and steps, which we learned in the last video, and then utilizing bebop approaches to get us into the chord tones. That's literally the bebop equation. And as you start to increase the sound of your bebop line and advance your bebop approach notes, it starts to sound like what I played in the demo video. So this is a bebop approach here. Bebop approach. Trill. I don't necessarily completely remember it, but again, just to start out with what I played. Something like that. Right? So bebop approaches, I'm approaching the 3rd, and then I'm approaching the root. So as we increase the difficulty level of our bebop approaches, it elevates our bebop sound to sound more and more like a pro, but we got to start somewhere, and this is where we start. Right? We start with our half step below approaches. So let's try this. I'm now going to try, both of us are going to try this. I'm going to put a half step below approach into the D minor and a half step below approach into the G. Now I can take space, so I could go, and if you need to take space, do it. That's going to be the easier thing to do because your brain doesn't have to figure out the rhythmic equation. If you're playing continuously, your brain rhythmically has to figure out how to place a bebop approach to get you into the chord tone on the downbeat of a 1. That's very difficult. That takes a lot of skill set. And again, practice exercises, specific ways to go about this, all in my course. But again, this is exactly how I would start. So let's try this. Here we go. So I use that half step below approach to get me into the 5th of the G. Okay, now your turn. Here we go. And you. Okay, there you go. Hopefully you made that one. Okay, I'll try a more simple version now. I'm going to go into the 5th of the D minor 7. Space. So you can take space to utilize the approaches to get you into chord tones. You go. Okay, I'll go one more time, and I'll have you go one more time. I'm going to go into the 3rd now. Right, so I hit the 3rd, and then I hit the root of the chord utilizing half-step approaches. You. All right. So this is exactly what the process of integrating bebop approaches looks like in this particular way with our 2-5-1s. Now, as we start to work on this through different keys, right, we need to work on 2-5-1s and different progressions. We can go back to our song, Groove and High, and from our level, based on what we did, right, now I can start to utilize different bebop approaches. So what I did here is a half step below into the 3rd of the E flat major 7 chord. And then a half step below into the 7th. Right? And then a half step below into the 7 of the A minor 7. And then half step below into the D. So as you start to integrate these different types of movements now over tunes that have specific progressions, it's going to sound amazing. It actually starts to sound like bebop very, very, very fast. But it's due to the sequential learning path that you've learned. Like without the first 2 levels, because there's such an integral part of the system, it would never sound like this. You can't just use bebop approaches. Bebop approaches aren't like the golden ticket. You got to have the foundational proficiency levels in order for this to work. That's why so many students go onto YouTube. They say, hey, I want to learn bebop approaches because it makes me sound like bebop. No, it doesn't. You got to learn your skips and steps first test out a proficiency, and then learn this. So here's what it might sound like. I'm going to go slow for you so you can really watch and listen, even slow this back down if you want. I'm going to go at 70 BPM, and I'll show you what bebop approaches can sound like. Here we go. Right? Half step below. So I was utilizing really advanced bebop approaches. Let me make sure I didn't go off the camera. No, I didn't. Great. I was utilizing very, very advanced bebop approaches, like more advanced bebop approaches to move through my chord tones. But at the base of this, I was following all the same principles I've just taught you. So what happens now? Practice, practice, exercises, practice, working on things, trading fours with me. And again, like I said, this new Proficient jazz piano course on improvisation goal 3 is going to be released on Black Friday, along with the goals 1 and 2 on comping and solo piano, which are already available to members. So if you're interested in picking this up, or you just want to learn more about it, go to jazzpianoschool.com/Black Friday 2025, because you get all the information about our Black Friday offer. But needless to say, regardless of that, I don't even care if you sign up or not. Utilize this. Work on your bebop approaches. Go back to the video I just released. Work on your fundamentals of level 1 and level 2, right? And then start to learn your bebop approaches. And when you do this, if you test out of the proficiency in the last 2 tests that I gave you, and you start to work on your bebop approaches, you're going to sound like a professional bebop pianist. I promise you. And all it takes is a little bit of practice and a little bit of work. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll talk to you soon.
Well, again, I hope you guys enjoyed that free lesson podcast. Definitely go to jazzpianoschool.com to check out all the other free education we have available there. There's over 300 free podcast video lessons, a blog, lick of the week, and so many free ebook resources. And again, if you are looking to take that next step on your jazz piano journey and go a little bit deeper, we do have a membership available as well with an amazing, thriving community, lots of templates and systematic courses that will ensure you achieve your jazz piano dream. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe this video so that you can stay up to date with all the other free podcast lessons we're going to release. And as always, have a fantastic day and happy practicing.